I gave my girlfriend of 3 years an ultimatum, and she dumped me before I even finished the sentence. That is the short version. But the long version, the version that keeps me up at night staring at my ceiling wondering where it all went wrong, that is the story I need to tell you today. My name is Marcus. I am 38 years old, and until about a month ago, I was in what I thought was the best relationship of my life. Her name was Vivian. She was 32, 5'6", with dark curly hair that she always wore pulled back when she was working and let fall around her shoulders when we were home together. She had this way of looking at you when you were talking, like you were the only person in the world who mattered, and when she laughed, which was often, it was this deep, genuine sound that came from somewhere real. Vivian was not the kind of woman who laughed to be polite. She laughed because she found the world genuinely amusing, and being around her made me find it amusing too. We met at a fundraiser for a local animal shelter. I was there because my buddy Kevin had dragged me along, telling me it would be good for networking. Vivian was there because she had donated a significant amount of money to the shelter, and they had invited her as a guest of honor. She was wearing a deep red dress and talking to a group of people near the bar, and when Kevin pointed her out and said, "That is the woman who owns the Scarlet Room," I nearly choked on my drink. The Scarlet Room. Everyone in our city knew about the Scarlet Room. It was a strip club on the east side of town, the kind of place that had been around for decades but had recently undergone a massive renovation. What used to be a dingy, run-down establishment with a bad reputation had become one of the most popular nightlife spots in the city. Clean, well-lit, with high-end cocktails and a strict code of conduct for both employees and patrons. Connected to it was a shop that sold adult products, everything from lingerie to, well, you can imagine. Both businesses were thriving, and the woman responsible for their transformation was standing 20 feet away from me, laughing at something someone had said while holding a glass of champagne. I am going to be honest with you. The fact that she owned a strip club did not bother me at first. I know that sounds contradictory given what happened later, and maybe it is. But in that moment, standing in a room full of people at a charity event, all I saw was a beautiful, confident woman who had clearly built something impressive. Kevin introduced us, and Vivian and I talked for 2 hours straight. We talked about her businesses, my work in software sales, our families, our favorite movies, our worst first dates. She was smart, funny, self-deprecating in a way that made her even more attractive. When I asked for her number at the end of the night, she handed me a business card for the Scarlet Room and said, with a grin, "The personal number is on the back." Our first date was at a Thai restaurant downtown. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse and no makeup, and she was even more beautiful than she had been at the fundraiser. Over pad thai and spring rolls, she told me the story of how she had ended up in the adult entertainment industry, and it was not at all what I expected. Her father, a man named Gerald, had owned the Scarlet Room and the attached shop since the early 90s. He had run them decently for a while, but as he got older and his health declined, both businesses had fallen into disrepair. The club had become exactly the kind of place you picture when you think of a seedy strip club: sticky floors, dim lighting hiding stains rather than creating atmosphere, a revolving door of employees who were not treated well and did not stay long. The shop was not much better. By the time Gerald passed away 8 years before I met Vivian, both businesses were barely breaking even and had terrible reputations. Gerald left everything to Vivian. She was 24 at the time, fresh out of business school with a degree she had originally intended to use in retail management. She told me that when she first walked into the Scarlet Room after her father's death, she sat down in one of the cracked vinyl booths and cried. Not because of the state of the place, but because she could see what it could be. She could see the potential buried under years of neglect, and she knew that turning it into something great would be her way of honoring her father's memory. She poured her entire inheritance into the renovation. When the inheritance ran out, she took out loans. She worked 18-hour days for 2 years straight. She hired designers, contractors, and entirely new staff. She created policies to ensure that every dancer, bartender, and employee was treated with respect and paid fairly. She established a zero-tolerance policy for harassment from patrons. She redesigned the shop to feel welcoming rather than sleazy, stocking it with high-quality products and hiring knowledgeable, non-judgmental staff. The result was remarkable. The Scarlet Room became the kind of place that couples went to on date nights, the kind of place that was reviewed positively in the local entertainment magazine, the kind of place that won Best Nightlife Venue 3 years running. The shop was equally successful, with a loyal customer base and a growing online presence. Vivian had taken her father's failing businesses and turned them into something she was genuinely proud of, and honestly, hearing her talk about it that first night, I was proud of her too. We dated for 3 years. 3 years of dinners and movie nights and lazy Sunday mornings and vacations and meeting each other's friends and slowly, carefully building a life together. We did not live together, something Vivian preferred because she valued her independence and I respected that, but we spent most nights at her apartment, a beautiful loft above the shop that she had renovated along with everything else. I had a drawer there, a toothbrush, a section of the closet, all the quiet markers of a relationship that was heading somewhere permanent. And it was heading somewhere permanent. Or at least, I thought it was. I had been thinking about proposing for almost a year. I had looked at rings. I had talked to Kevin about it, who told me I was insane not to have proposed already. I had even had a conversation with Vivian about marriage in general terms, and she had said she was open to it, though she did not want children. That was fine with me. I did not need children. I needed her. But here is where things started to go wrong. And I need you to understand my state of mind, because I have replayed this 1,000 times, and I am still not entirely sure where the line is between reasonable concern and the controlling behavior that Vivian accused me of. The adult industry aspect started to bother me. Not right away, and not all at once, but gradually, like a slow drip that eventually fills a bucket. It started with my parents. I come from a strict Catholic family. My mother goes to Mass every Sunday, and my father has a crucifix above every doorway in their house. When Vivian and I started getting serious, around the 1-year mark, my parents started asking questions. What does she do? Where does she work? And I lied. I told them she owned a bar and a retail shop, which was technically true if you squinted hard enough. But I knew it was a lie of omission, and the fact that I felt the need to lie told me something that I did not want to examine too closely. Then there were the hours. Vivian worked a lot. She was an active owner, which meant she was not sitting in an office somewhere reviewing spreadsheets. She was on the floor, managing staff, dealing with problems, sometimes filling in when employees called out. I cannot tell you how many times we had plans that got canceled because something came up at the club. Saturday nights were the worst. We would plan a dinner, a movie, a quiet evening in, and then her phone would ring and a bartender's kid was sick or a bouncer had a family emergency or there was a problem with a supplier. And suddenly Vivian was throwing on her jacket and heading out the door with a quick, "Sorry, babe," duty calls. One Saturday in particular stands out. We had tickets to see a movie that we had both been excited about for weeks. I had made dinner reservations at a new Italian place. I was dressed and ready to go when Vivian called me and said that one of her bartenders had called out and she was going to have to cover. She would be at the club until 4 in the morning. I sat on my couch in my nice shirt and pressed pants, holding 2 movie tickets, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, but frustration that had been building for months finally crystallizing into something I could name. I tried to talk to her about it. Not about selling, not yet, but about the hours, the canceled plans, the feeling that I was always second to the business. Vivian listened. She always listened. And then she said something that was perfectly reasonable and also infuriating. "Marcus, this is what owning a small business looks like. I cannot just hand the keys to someone else and walk away. That is exactly how the place ended up in the state it was in when my dad left it to me." She was right. I knew she was right. But being right did not make it easier to sit alone on a Saturday night while my girlfriend was serving drinks in a strip club until the early hours of the morning. And yes, I know how that sounds. I know what you were thinking, but there it is. The truth is not always pretty. The religious thing got worse too. My parents were pushing for a meeting, and I was running out of excuses. I started having this recurring anxiety about the future, about what it would look like to be married to someone whose livelihood came from the adult industry. What would I tell people at work? What would I tell my parents? What would people think of me? I am not proud of those thoughts. They were shallow and selfish, and I know that now. But at the time, they felt enormous, like walls closing in on me from every direction. So I did the thing that destroyed my relationship. I decided that I would ask Vivian to sell the Scarlet Room and the shop before I proposed. In my head, this seemed reasonable. She was a brilliant businesswoman. She could buy a regular bar, a restaurant, a traditional retail shop. She had the skills and the capital to succeed in any industry. Why did it have to be this one? I convinced myself that I was not asking her to give up her career. I was asking her to redirect it. There is a difference, right? Wrong. There is no difference. I know that now. I made her breakfast one morning before she headed to the shop. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh orange juice, the whole spread. She was sitting at the kitchen counter in her bathrobe, hair still wet from the shower, and she looked so beautiful and so content that I almost chickened out. But I had been rehearsing this conversation in my head for weeks, and I pushed through. Viv, I need to talk to you about something important. She looked up from her eggs. Okay, what is up? I have been thinking a lot about our future, about where this relationship is going, and I want you to know that I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. She smiled, that warm, genuine smile that made my chest ache. I love you too, Marcus. But I need to be honest with you about something that has been bothering me. The club, the shop, the adult industry. It bothers me, Viv. It has been bothering me for a while. And I think I need you to sell both businesses before I can see myself proposing. The smile disappeared. It did not fade gradually. It vanished, like someone had flipped a switch. Vivian set down her fork, very carefully, very deliberately, and looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. It was not anger. It was worse than anger. It was clarity, like she was seeing me clearly for the first time and was deeply disappointed by what she found. You want me to sell my businesses, she said. It was not a question. I want us to have a future that I can feel good about. A future where I do not have to lie to my parents about what you do, where I do not spend every Saturday night alone while you are at the club, where our life together is not built on an industry that I have real moral concerns about. She stood up, pushed back from the counter, crossed her arms, and then she said the words that I will hear for the rest of my life. Marcus, I have worked for 8 years to build those businesses from nothing. I took a failing strip club and a rundown shop that my dying father left me, and I turned them into something I am proud of. I work until 4 in the morning because that is what it takes to run a successful business. I love what I do. I love the adult industry. I love my employees. I love my customers. And if you think for 1 second that I am going to sell everything I have built because you cannot figure out how to talk to your parents, then you do not know me at all. Viv, please, can we just... We are done, Marcus. Just like that. 3 years. Done. She walked through her apartment, collecting my things with a calm efficiency that was almost more devastating than tears would have been. My jacket from the hall closet. My phone charger from the bedroom. My toothbrush from the bathroom. She put everything in a bag and handed it to me at the door, and when I reached for her hand, she pulled it away. Your key, she said. I took my key off my keyring and handed it to her. She took hers off and handed it to me, and then she closed the door. I stood in the hallway for 5 minutes, staring at the door, waiting for her to open it again, to say she was sorry, to say she had overreacted, to say we could work this out. The door stayed closed. By the time I got home, she had blocked me on every platform. Facebook, Instagram, phone, text, everything. Vivian was thorough in all things, including ending relationships. I spent the next month in a fog. The kind of fog where you wake up in the morning and for 3 blissful seconds you do not remember what happened, and then it hits you like a truck and you have to lie there for 10 minutes just gathering the strength to get out of bed. I went to work, but I was not really there. My sales numbers tanked. My manager pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay, and I told him I was going through a breakup, and he nodded like he understood, but he did not understand. Nobody understood, because nobody knew the full story except me and Vivian was not talking to me. I came home every evening, sat on my couch, and stared at the wall. The couch still smelled like her perfume. Or maybe I was imagining it. I did not wash the pillowcase on the side of the bed where she used to sleep for 2 weeks, because I could still smell her shampoo on it, and I know how pathetic that sounds, and I do not care. Kevin brought me beer and pizza and told me I was an idiot, which I deserved. My other friends were more diplomatic, but their message was the same. I had messed up. I had asked a self-made woman to give up her life's work because I was uncomfortable with it, and she had responded exactly the way anyone with an ounce of self-respect would respond. But the worst part, the part that really got me, happened about a month after the breakup. I was lying in bed at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, scrolling through my phone, when I decided to tell my parents the truth. I called my mother the next morning and told her everything. That Vivian owned a strip club and an adult shop. That her father had left them to her, and she had built them into successful businesses. That I had asked her to sell them, and she had left me. My mother was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Marcus, you are a fool." "What? Your father and I liked that girl. We could see how happy she made you. And her father, Gerald, we knew the family. Your father went to school with Gerald. He figured out the connection through the last name months ago." I felt the ground drop out from under me. Dad knew. Of course he knew. He did not care. Neither do I. That girl built something from nothing, and you asked her to throw it away. Marcus, honestly. So there it was. The thing I had been so afraid of, my parents' reaction, turned out to be a complete non-issue. My strict Catholic parents did not care. My father had already put it together and had not said a word because it was not worth saying a word about. The entire foundation of my anxiety, the thing that had driven me to deliver that ultimatum, was built on assumptions that I had never bothered to test. I had lost the best woman I had ever known because I was too much of a coward to have an honest conversation with my own parents. About a week after that phone call, I did something stupid. I went to the Scarlet Room. I told myself I was just going to have a drink, to see the place with fresh eyes, to sit in the environment that Vivian had created and appreciate it the way I should have appreciated it all along. But of course, that is not why I went. I went because I wanted to see her. The club was packed. Music was thumping. The lighting was this perfect warm amber that made everyone look good. Bartenders were moving with practiced efficiency behind a bar that gleamed like it was brand new. Dancers were performing on the main stage, and the crowd was respectful, engaged, having a good time. This was not a sleazy dive. This was a well-run entertainment venue, and the woman who had built it was standing behind the bar in a Harley Quinn costume, complete with the baseball bat, looking like she was having the time of her life. I started walking toward her. I had not planned what I was going to say. I had not planned anything. I was operating on pure desperation and the faint, irrational hope that if she saw my face, she would remember what we had and give me another chance. I got about halfway across the room before I saw her do this thing. This move where she pointed the bat like a gun and did the cocking motion, like Harley Quinn in the movie. She was goofing around with a customer, laughing, completely in her element. And then she saw me. Our eyes met across the room, and for 1 second, one heartbeat, I thought I saw something in her expression. Recognition. Maybe even a flicker of the warmth that used to be there. Then she nodded to someone I could not see, and 2 bouncers materialized on either side of me like they had been conjured from thin air. "Sir, we are going to need you to leave." They escorted me out, politely but firmly. I did not resist. There was nothing to resist. Vivian had made her decision, and it was the right one. I was the one who had been wrong. About everything. I went home that night and sat in my apartment and really, truly reckoned with what I had done. I had taken a woman who was brilliant, passionate, independent, and generous. A woman who had turned tragedy into triumph. Who had taken her dead father's failing legacy and transformed it into something extraordinary. And I had told her that her life's work was not good enough for me. That she needed to change who she was before I would consider her worthy of marriage. The arrogance of it. The sheer, breathtaking arrogance. I thought about writing her a letter. An actual physical letter, sent through the mail, since she had blocked me everywhere else. I even sat down with a pen and paper and tried to figure out what I would say. But everything I wrote sounded hollow. "I am sorry" was not enough. "I was wrong" was not enough. "I accept you for who you are" was laughable coming from a man who had proven the exact opposite. There was nothing I could put on paper that would undo what I had done, because what I had done was not just deliver an ultimatum. What I had done was reveal who I really was, and who I really was turned out to be someone Vivian did not want to be with. And I could not blame her, not for a second. Looking back now, with the clarity that only comes from losing something you cannot get back, I can see exactly where I went wrong. It was not the ultimatum itself, though that was bad enough. It was the years of small dishonesty that led up to it. Every time I lied to my parents about what Vivian did. Every time I felt a twinge of discomfort about her industry and swallowed it instead of talking about it. Every time I treated her passion as a problem to be solved rather than a part of who she was. The ultimatum was just the final symptom of a disease that had been growing inside me for years, a disease called cowardice. Vivian deserved a partner who was proud of her, not someone who hid her profession from his family, not someone who resented her work ethic. Not someone who thought he had the right to tell her what to do with a business she had built with her own hands and heart and sweat. She deserved someone who would walk into the Scarlet Room on a Saturday night and sit at the bar and watch her work with nothing but admiration. She deserved someone who would tell his parents the truth on day one and dare them to have a problem with it. She deserved better than me, and she knew it long before I did. The weeks after that night at the club were some of the loneliest of my life. I would come home from work and the apartment would be so quiet that I could hear the refrigerator humming from the bedroom. I would make dinner for one and sit at the table and eat in silence. And I would think about all those evenings when Vivian would come over after a long shift, smelling like perfume and cigarette smoke from the club, and she would kick off her shoes and collapse onto my couch and tell me about her night. The drunk customer who tried to propose to one of the dancers. The new cocktail recipe the bartender was experimenting with. The regular who brought his wife for the first time and how they had the best time. She made that world come alive for me. And instead of appreciating the window she was giving me into her life, I had been quietly judging it the entire time. I started going to therapy about 3 weeks after the breakup. My therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Reeves, did not let me wallow in self-pity. She asked me hard questions about my upbringing, about the values I had inherited versus the values I had actually chosen for myself, about the difference between genuine moral conviction and social anxiety dressed up as principle. That last one hit hard, because when I really dug into why the adult industry bothered me, when I peeled back all the layers of rationalization and religious guilt and social expectation, what I found underneath was not moral objection at all. It was fear. Fear of what other people would think. Fear of not fitting into the mold that my parents and my church and my social circle had built for me. Fear of being different. And Vivian was fearless. She had taken on an industry that most people looked down on, and she had made it respectable. She had stared down every judgmental comment and every raised eyebrow and every whispered conversation, and she had kept building. She did not care what people thought because she knew what she was doing was legitimate, honest work that provided good jobs and good entertainment and treated everyone involved with dignity. Her fearlessness was one of the things I loved most about her, and it was also the thing that threatened me the most because it highlighted everything that I was not. Kevin told me recently that Vivian is doing better than ever. The Scarlet Room was featured in a regional business magazine, something about women entrepreneurs in unconventional industries. Kevin showed me the article on his phone, and there was a photo of Vivian standing in the club, arms crossed, smiling that smile. The headline called her a trailblazer. She looked happy. She looked whole. She looked like a woman who had not lost a single thing by letting me go. And that is the truth that I have to live with. I did not break Vivian. I barely even dented her. She had already survived the loss of her father, the near collapse of his businesses, years of grueling work and financial risk, and social stigma. Losing me was, in the grand scheme of her life, a minor inconvenience. She mourned our relationship for however long she needed to mourn it, and then she moved on, because that is what strong people do. They move on. They do not sit in their apartments writing letters they will never send. That is what weak people do. That is what I did. If you are listening to this and you are in a relationship with someone whose career or passion makes you uncomfortable, I am going to give you the advice that I wish someone had given me. Talk about it. Early. Honestly. Do not let your discomfort fester in silence until it turns into an ultimatum. And for the love of everything, do not ask someone to give up the thing they have built just because you are too insecure to accept it. If you cannot accept your partner for who they are, all of who they are, then set them free. Do not try to reshape them into someone who fits your comfort zone. That is not love. That is control. And the sooner you learn the difference, the less wreckage you will leave in your wake. I learned the difference too late. Vivian is out there somewhere, probably behind that bar, probably in some amazing costume, probably laughing that deep, real laugh of hers. And I am here, in my apartment, with an empty drawer and a toothbrush holder with one toothbrush in it, telling this story to strangers because I do not know who else to tell it to. Do not be like me. Love the whole person or walk away. There is no middle ground. Because I promise you, from the bottom of my broken, regretful heart, that the pain of accepting someone fully, even the parts that challenge you, is nothing compared to the pain of losing them because you could not. I had something rare. I had someone who loved me, who let me into her world, who was patient with my insecurities for 3 years. and I threw it away because I was scared of what people might think. People who, as it turned out, did not even think the things I was afraid of. The irony of that will follow me for the rest of my life, and I deserve every ounce of it. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this one. And if you have someone in your life who loves what they do, tell them you are proud of them today. You never know when you might lose the chance. Subscribe for more stories.